Okay, OreCorp. We're focused in Tanzania on the Nyanzaga Gold Project. This is where we've identified a high-grade resource, 3 million ounces at 4 grams. That's delivering under PFS, a life of mine around about 12 years at just over 200,000 ounces a year with a total capital cost of just under 300 million, all in sustaining costs of 838 an ounce. We've currently been working over the past 12 months to conclude the ownership of the project, which we've now done, and we've just got one payment conditional on the grant of the special mining licence to Barrick at just over $8 million. And we're anticipating the grant of that licence very soon, and we'll talk to that as we go through the presentation. And then going forward, we then look to develop the next large-scale gold mine in Tanzania with the Tanzanian government. We've also got a new initiative in Western Australia that we started, and we've still got a strong board with the right experience of capital markets and technical expertise to deliver the project. In terms of that board of management, dominated by former Equinox personnel, our chairman is in the Crown, Mr. Craig Williams. We've also then dovetailed that with a fantastic register headed by West Oz, Australian Super, and some other significant groups like Sprott Capital, JP Morgan, etc. The institutional shareholder base. Still got a tight capital structure and robust cash position of 14 million Aussie as of the end of December. In terms of Tanzania as a mining jurisdiction, 2017 saw some sweeping legislative changes. We're going to embrace those changes in the DFS as we move the project forward. We've been active in Tanzania for over 20 years now. I used to live there from 96 to 2000, and Tanzania is the fourth largest gold producer in Africa. One of there's many jurisdictions in Africa. There's been some challenges, none more recent than the discussions on and around a dispute between Acacia Mining and based in London. Barrick then has acquired all of the shares in Acacia at the request of the government to tidy this situation up. And then within a month of that happening, Barrick and the government of Tanzania announced that they'd settled all of the disputes subject to the ratification of the Attorney General. And then recently in January, literally just over a week ago, that ratification came, and I was actually in country when this happened. And it's fair to say that Barrick, as they say, are back in business now in Tanzania. And His Excellency John Magufuli announced that the game was over and that investors were safe in Tanzania. So we're very pleased to see this resolved. We think it's a great step forward for all parties. And we're looking forward to moving forward. Let's now talk about Nyanzaga. This is a view looking south at Nyanzaga Hill that covers just over 3 million ounces at 4 grams to the tonne. We're actually situated in some of the best greenstone terrains in the world. The Lake Victorian Goldfields region would give the Eastern Goldfields of Western Australia a run for their money. There's been a long history of mining in this area, but more recently that's seen over 25 million ounces of gold produced in recent history. And you are in elephants with elephant country. Not only are we endowed with fantastic geology, but we've also got amazing infrastructure as well. You've got water out of the lake, you've got power lines to the north and south. Those power lines as well have more than adequate capacity. Power is also cheap at 9 cents a kilowatt hour. We've got well-established supply chains, an international airport, and in fact the deal that Barrick has done with the government will see a bitumen road literally going right past the project. There's also now sort of second generation miners in Tanzania, both open pit and underground, and we intend to draw on these local resources as we progress the project. When we inherited the project over 4 years ago now, we came into 100 million tonnes at a bit over a gram. We knew that that wasn't going to work. We literally started from the beginning, rebuilt this resource with a view to dropping tonnes, lifting grade but preserving ounces. This we did very well, and we went from 100 million tonnes to 23, but in doing so quadrupled the grade and then also delivered 75% of the ounces of the original resource. Awful lot of drilling done in the deposits, over 2,000 holes, just under 300 kilometres of drilling now. The deposit is also quite exceptional in the respect that it is all in one spot. This isn't sort of multiple pits, it's one single deposit. To where we sit with size and grade, Nyanzaga is well off the scale there, which is where we wanted to be. Our low cut for our mineral resources, 1.5 grams. And also similarly, but unfortunately rather, we've suffered because of the disputes within Tanzania, and our market cap is very, very low relative to the scale of the project that we propose to deliver and also the quality of the resource that that's based on. When you look at the production profile of Nyanzaga, you'll see it delivers approximately 200,000 ounces a year for over 10 years. You'll see in here lots of other projects listed. They're all very good projects. This isn't meant to demonstrate that, but just to put us as a peer comparison on what a significant project Nyanzaga will be once it's developed. The pre-feasibility study results, these now unfortunately around about 3 years out of date, but it'll also give you a flavour of what we saw in concluding the PFS. We saw scope for a 4 million tonne per annum plant, just under $300 million in capital, an open pit of just under 500 metres deep, and mineralisation mined down to over 800 metres with the underground. When we look at the mining and development of the project, a lot of it's controlled by this graph of the ounces per vertical metre. We have around about 5,100 ounces per vertical metre, which is an excellent metric. We increased that up to around about 11,000 ounces per vertical metre during the underground. What we see the project looking like is an open pit. As I mentioned earlier, this will start initially and then be married with a decline out of the side of the pit. The plan is to mine roughly 3 million tonnes per annum out of the open pit and then blend that with 1 million tonnes per annum out of the underground. The underground at the moment only goes down to 800 metres, but we see this as an open opportunity that will provide longevity well after the current mine plan. Those 4 million tonnes per annum then move through to a conventional CIL plant. We grind to 75 microns and deliver 88% recovery and generate a gold doré in doing so. In terms of pre-production capital, we're currently sitting at 287. The legislative changes will see potential increases to this. We're going to work very hard in the DFS to conclude a final capital number not dissimilar to what we see here. And it's really a similar story in with the operating costs as well. The DFS, as we work through it, will be about optimisation, looking at mining, looking at processing and opportunities to save money in any angle. So really then the definitive study, we've been tickling this along. We're waiting to fully accelerate this on the ground of the mining licence. We'd see this taking maybe an extra 6 to 7 months once the mining licence is granted. And it's all about optimisation and delivering the best project that we possibly can. In terms of the special mining licence, the word special is used for anything with over $100 million capital investment, greater than 10 square kilometres, and a longevity greater than that of 10 years. We've just had recent meetings with the Minister, Deputy Minister, Permanent Secretary and Head of the Mining Commission, and also recently reported in the press Thursday of last week that the quote, they're just putting final touches to the mining licence, so we're very optimistic that this will come through fairly shortly. Stakeholder engagement, ever since we got into the country, we've focused very hard on this. This is going to be critical. We, like the speaker before me, will ultimately need to complete a RAP to move people from the mine area. We work with all levels of the community, then right up to ministerial level and beyond. In senior government. This is a very, very important. Your licence to operate in Africa has been seen is incredibly important, just as important as the project. We also have the mighty OreCorp United football team, which has been very successful in the local league. Just to skip really quickly to Western Australia, it's a new initiative. We're going to push on and develop Nyanzaga. That's the ultimate aim and objective of the company. But we've also always had a second project. We see Western Australia. It's in our back door. On our back doorstep, and something that we're very familiar with. We had a lot of success there in the past. Completed a targeted initiative and steadily started picking ground up in the eastern goldfields centred around the Hobbes Project, which is about 130 kilometres northeast of Kalgoorlie. This, anyway, in lots of ways, not dissimilar to Nyanzaga. No, there's not 3 million ounces here. I'm not going to stand here and say that, but there are potential of several 100,000 ounces at the moment. There was an awful lot of data that had never been pulled together. We've done all of that. I've now got a focused exploration program moving forward, and ultimately later on this year we'll start doing some drilling out here once we've set our timelines and budgets for Nyanzaga. You can see here that there's basically a large horizontal zone of supergene mineralisation, around about 20 to 30 metres down, and then also numerous primary zones of primary mineralisation which have never been followed up and will be a point of focus for the company going forward in the future. Jericho and Banjara Well, again, just to complement the original Hobbes project, and again, these are going through a similar process at the moment. We should have drill targets there later in the year, early next. Whilst we continue pushing along with Nyanzaga, we're always looking at other opportunities as well, and basically the company will and continue this process and anything that may potentially add value for its shareholders and stakeholders as we move the company forward. So just to wrap up, we've had a big year. We've finalised all the ownership now. It's 100%. Nobody else in there. We're looking forward to the grant of the special mining licence. We then embrace the government as a 16% shareholder of Nyanzaga and work with them ultimately to deliver Tanzania its next large-scale gold mine. Thank you very much for your attention.